Good morning and welcome to this week's episode of the Last Night's Game podcast. I'm your host, Amy Butchon-Siegfried. Joining me today to talk to the woman of the hour, Angella Goran, is my co-founder, my brother, and my co-host, Scott. Scott, welcome to the podcast. Angella, welcome to the podcast.
Sammy. Thank you for having us. We have a special guest, so she's the spotlight today.
It's very exciting. So we were kind of talking ahead of time, but for some perspective for those of you listening, Scott and I met Angella at the day in the life of an NFL player women's football camp at Super Bowl. But it's actually our mother who met Angella first, and we'll tell the story a little bit. But I'll let Angella tell the story because I remember just my mom coming up to me. This was in Vegas, which is where Scott and I are from.
This is Vegas.
And my mom says, "Oh, this really nice lady needs I'm going to give her a ride because we are far away and she needs to go down to the strip and she has to get there fast. I'm just going to take her." And I was like, "Okay, you do what you've got to do." And so, and here's Angella.
and then the rest is history. I don't know whether it's Canadian or it's just my personality, but yeah, your mom came to the rescue. That was for sure. But that was the funny story of how, and I always kind of say it to anybody in the world, when you think about opening doors and networks, like look where it leads, right? And you meet these great people. So sometimes just asking, hey, like, are you going, or can you help me this way? But yeah, I was in Vegas at Super Bowl last year. One of my investors who played in the NFL, formerly Ben Garland, such a sweetheart. And it was just serendipitous because I had a very busy schedule, being that I was there as a founder and running around panels. But when Ben kind of said, hey, you got to go check out this great event hosted by this incredible female athlete and the first time kind of female coach in the NFL, Dr. Jen Welter, I just went, I'm sold. Like, I got to go. This is awesome. Dropped everything. And yeah, you're right, Amy. As you said to the listeners, it was in the middle of nowhere. To give people the idea, like when you arrive in Vegas, you get the Vegas Strip, but this was like way out in Nevada area. So my taxi cab was a little bit of an offshoot. And I thought, where's this guy driving me to? And what did Ben get me into, number one? And then I show up, and of course the energy is unreal. There was all these great women and girls and so many people, like the two of you and your mom obviously helping out. And I only had a stint of time because I had to get back for another presentation because this was not in my agenda. So I came out and I was, of course, no Ubers were out in the area. So I'm like pacing and I'm just going, I don't know how I'm going to get back. Like, I got to get back. And she goes, I'll just drive you. And she said, don't mind the car. Like
it was full of all the boxes for the event.
Full of everything. Yeah, exactly. Full of everything. And she shoved me in and she drove me down, and we ended up obviously chit-chatting about what I do. And the rest is history. Then, skip a year ahead. And then Amy, I think you and I were pretty much doing the same thing. And it was the light bulb when I said Canadian cyclist, tech founder. It was like
wait a minute.
Did a woman drive you last year? And they're like, that's my mom. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh.
We happened to be in the same Airbnb for the Super Bowl event in New Orleans. And then Angela shared an Uber. There's a lot of cars involved in this conversation.
A lot of cars.
But it's really cool to see, like, I think you said it really, really best. What I love about the story is, like, it's all about networking. It's all about saying yes, but it's all about, like, I do really feel like the community that we reside in, but also just women in sports and those who are proponents of women in sports are just, it's a community of like, how can I help? What can I do? And I mean, that's really where I feel like we start talking about, your business that you run. Angella is a social entrepreneur and a tech founder. And so, that came into play. Then we all started talking about the power hour. And I was like, okay, you have to come on and talk about all the things. And also just happens to be that you're like an endurance athlete and cyclist and all those things.
Oh, junkie.
I guess, where do we want to start? Let's start with, like, you have so much going on. How do you have time to be an endurance athlete of any sort of cyclist? But you also live in Toronto. And
so outside of Toronto. I'm in Ottawa.
That's right. You're in Ottawa. Yeah. But, like,
I'm in Toronto today.
Yeah, that's right. So, but like, how, A, it's cold. So how do you do all your training? But B, like, how do you find time to do all these things?
Well, I always kind of see time management skills are always good. And one thing that most athletes have is they have their time down to like a T. And I would say, from the endurance perspective, like at this stage in my life, and I'm embracing it. It's really nice to go back to like power and quality workouts. And I think also, I always joke to anybody, and I learned this at a younger age, was, hey, like, quality workouts versus quantity. And even endurance athletes, we're seeing it in the performance space now, where if you're, let's say, going out, I'm going to use Ironman as an example because people know the crazy Ironman athletes. even that they're not actually putting in the same distance and training. They're doing a lot more, what I would say is quality strength, lots of heavier lifting and sprint work. So even for me, like my last endeavor was that 1 hour, which definitely plays into bringing up the power hour, right? The last stint that I did as a professional cyclist was going after the 1 hour UCI record indoors. And so didn't have to contemplate the snow of Canada. That kind of helped. There's a roof, it's a controlled environment. We do, just for those that want to know about, and obviously cycling, if you're not a cyclist, yeah, for those that live in winter wonderland like I do for 5 months of the year, we have these wonderful things called smart trainers. So that's what we get to do, Amy and Scott. We get to put our bikes that we ride all spring and summer outdoors, we stick them onto a computer, and then we get to like ride with people all over the world, thanks to companies like Swift. Give a shout out to Eric and Kate that are over there running it. Kate's incredible in the women's cycling world, and then also my Whoosh. And it's honestly like, I think last weekend I rode with about 50 people from all over the world. Like I can text them, yeah, super cool. Like from London to the Emirates to France, and it's a ton of fun, to the point where you start to get to know people, and you can even meet them if you ever travel, right? So you end up being kind of virtual buddies. It's a healthier gamification application.
I love this.
Right? Yeah, there you go. So I get a die, and it sounds really funny. Anybody that gets to watch me indoors, it's called the pain cave. We often resort to it, but yeah, like that's the cycling. My last endeavor in sport was doing the 1 hour, and for sure, I'd say now. Do I call myself an endurance junkie? I definitely. Any of my friends say, yeah, like I've got great cardio base. I've done it my whole life, but I've made such a great switch this year in embracing getting back into the gym, in doing heavier lifting, because I am in my 40s, and I'm looking forward to kind of like this transition and being a part of women's wealth and wellness, and being able to spread the message, because I think pounding the pavement as much as I have, it also has its counter effects, which at a certain stage, being a professional athlete, people don't realize that it is also hazardous. It's not necessarily the best thing, as and you probably had conversations on lots of your podcasts, which I know I've listened to a few, on the burdens of being a high performance athlete and what it can do to you. So I feel really fortunate, like knock on wood, never any serious injuries. I always joke, maybe my brain a little bit, because I went into tech being a founder, but like honestly, like knock on wood, I haven't had or succumbed to some of the mental health issues that I've definitely seen some professional athletes go through. I've been able to balance that. I do have mental health days. I think everybody needs that once in a while, but sport, I was blessed with being gifted, and I love it. So there you have it.
I find that a lot of people who operate at a high level in their careers, whether they're a founder, whether they're a CEO, they have that in that very ritualistic output, whatever that might be. They might be a runner, they might be a cyclist, whatever that intense yogi, whatever that might be. But I think you're right, though. There's really that very commonality of that output somehow, to get the stress, to get your mind off of work, to take that break. Like, what a huge relief for your brain, because your brain is so on. And if, like you said, your day is, time management is huge. So
Time management, yeah.
That is your relief.
Yeah, no, exactly. Go back to the question. I literally said it yesterday, and I think from the time management perspective, it's when some of my friends and people definitely come up and ask, they're like, how do you do it? Like, to your point, to your question, I usually resort back to answering or asking them the question of, how do you not do it? So it's almost like, look, if you get up and you want to have that cup of coffee in the morning, and that's your religious like effort of like, this is what I need, then it's oftentimes for me, it's the same thing. It's like, look, I put in, and that's why this whole idea around the power hour, I'm like, look, everybody can move for an hour a day, and it doesn't have to be physically difficult. Like, just go out for a walk,
Right.
go and do meditation, do yoga. I think it's just taking that hour for yourself, and that's kind of where I've made that point of being able to turn the phone off, and which is kind of funny, because it's almost like I put Spotify on and put airplane mode. I'm trying that. This is like my new relief effort, because funny enough, we always, yeah, it's like, it's my time. Although I'm funny, like I'm like, oh, I know I still have the technology with me. How do we get fully away from technology these days? It's pretty hard.
It is hard. It is hard. So
Yeah.
obviously you were inspired by your power hour to do power hour. Talk to our listeners a little bit about the power hour that's happening on May 23rd and 24th, because this is the coolest thing. And we can, as normal humans who are not endurance athletes or whatever else, or you don't have to be in Vegas for, like, we can all participate. So this is really cool. I love that you've really thought through a lot of elements of this activity.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, for sure. I think it kind of goes hand in hand, like my journey as both an athlete and then, obviously going into career and launching into the tech space, been able to kind of build both where it matches, where, I love what I do for work and I love what I get to do just personally. And now I've been able to blend the best of both worlds. So when the record was done 2 years ago in 2022 in August, which was really what I said, not that I'm hanging my bike shoes up, but it was like, look, like I'm done in the professional stint. I want to continue to give back. I want to be able to invest in women in sports. So now I'm going to shift my gears, pun intended. And I think all that to be said, it was at that time, it was like, well, what do I continue to do? And I've used the bike, and I think lots of athletes do this. They use their sport as a means to give back and drive impact. And what I started to see being a part of some of these great communities and organizations, whether it's, Opal Group, which works with a lot of family offices, or Players Impact Fund, was that a lot of athletes in their retirement were continuing to give back in ways that gave them meaning. So I look back now, like 2012, 2013, I biked across Canada for kids for outdoor education, and that was connected to a bunch of brands. Name, image, likeness did not exist then, right? So for younger people that are watching your podcast and listening, technically NIL was there. It was just that it wasn't classified. Like I was a brand. Like I was used by Parks Canada and the Canadian Wildlife Federation and a bunch of incredible companies that were investing in outdoor education programs for our kids in Canada, particularly. And I got a bike from Victoria all the way to Halifax, like the whole span, like saying somebody biked from Seattle to Vermont, right?
That's crazy.
And it was crazy. It was a lot of fun. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. And the people I got to see, and that really started to give me an opportunity to use the bike as an instrument to give back. And I continue to do that through, I'd say, the last decade, and even now more so after the 1 hour. And kind of, and the joke is now it's like, oh, do I go bike across Canada again? And it was like, no, we're going to get everybody to move for an hour, and they're
That's
going to
very
do it
cool.
because they're going to move for themselves. So to go to your question on what's the power hour, it was this idea of like, the joke on me was, hey, I'm not going to go after another record, but I'm going to get the world to join me in trying to break a record, and my friends and my family. And how do we start this? And Guinness World Records seems to be a great avenue. Obviously, it gets people hyped up. It's excitement. As any of the athletes I spoke to about the idea, they said, you got to go big or go home. So it's like, okay, well, we're gonna go big. We're gonna go to Vegas, baby. And what stays in what the whole line of like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Well, we're like, what happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas this time. We're like gonna let the world know, and that is the power hour. It's all about movement. It is a movement. Period. It's about getting out and doing something for yourself with others if you choose to, and you can do it from wherever you are in the world. Like thanks to wearables, like thanks to Apple, who's going to be joining us, and Strava, you know, it's a free application software that you can have on your phone. You can have it on any of your wearables, Garmin, most people at this point, especially everybody has a phone. I'd say most people do in the world. And that's kind of why we chose Strava as a really good partner, just because it has a free application you can download to put on and walk, jog, swim, whatever you're choosing as the activity. And on May 24th, that is Saturday. Obviously, in the US, it's Memorial Day long weekend. We've set this date as the day of the first inaugural Power Hour to go and get the greatest number of people to move for 60 minutes or more from wherever they are in the world. And we've got great fitness clubs, even all the way down south in Australia. Shout out to Atmosphere, one of the largest Southern Hemisphere fitness clubs with thousands of members. That will be, at 1:30 on the Friday, the 23rd. It will be 7:30 in the morning on the Saturday. They're going to be kicking it off. So we are super excited, because obviously the goal is not, it's a one and done, Amy and Scott. This is an event that is a start to planting a movement that continues. And we're really investing through Power Play Impact Fund, which is my fund that I'm launching, working with some of these great athletes, like our tip off, like Dr. Jen Welter, who introduced us, and having these advocates where they each have foundations and charities where the funding that comes through, because it is a fundraiser, will go back equally to the athletes that show up to be a part of the first, I'm calling them like the Marvel athletes. So we'll have about a dozen athletes with their charities. So Pau Gasol Foundation. For those that are listening that don't know NBA, check out Pau Gasol for sure, right? And
Yes.
Dr. Jen Welter. And I think that's, for me, it's a way to give back to these athletes that have inspired me to believe that I can launch an impact fund and do a lot more than just ride a bike and run a tech company. And I can manage it with my time effectively. But I think it's an ask to get people to come out, and it's for free. And I always say, look, the fundraiser aspect, people can afford to donate, then by all means. And there's some cool swag. If you donate $25 or $50, you'll get like the hoodie and the ball cap and that kind of cool stuff. But the number one thing for this is it's 100% free. If families want to join or kids and they don't have the ability to donate $1 or $5, they don't have to. Participation is a donation. And I really want people to resonate with that. It is about creating a movement and showing that we can move the world for physical, mental, nutritional, and financial wellness. Because let's face it, it's no longer just about being physical well. It is about being mentally strong. It is about financially being stable and secure and understanding how to save for our futures, especially for the younger generations. And I think a part of that is nutrition, good healthy meals, fuel the mind and the body, right? It is an ecosystem. So that's what we'll be putting and reinvesting in. That's a long-winded story on the Power Hour. I hope people get inspired about it as much.
It's
So
awesome.
thank you.
And you mentioned that you've worked with Jen, and we've seen this like skyrocket in support for women's sports and women in sports. And I know you have some other big names like Nikki Fargas and Jennifer Azzi. What's it been like
Just
to
to share.
work with them planning this? How did
Yeah.
that all come together with them?
Oh, so again, networks. I think the funniest part is when I start to look at the collective group that are coming to shine and step up here. It all comes to, oh, we were in a car ride or we sat next to each other at an airport. In the case of Nikki and Jen, it actually came through this incredible woman who I met in France last year at the Sport Beach. And then we ended up reconnecting and bumping into each other in Paris at the Olympics amongst all of the people. But of course, we're all connected because of sport. And when I told her about the Power Hour Princess, and that is her name, and she is a princess pretty much in all rights, she should be.
Yeah.
She's like, you know what, my cousin, she works at the Aces. Like as she started to kind of come on board and help, so she's like, you're doing your event in Vegas, like the WNBA team should be involved. So as Princess did the introduction out to the Aces, of course, like we got a great reception, and with the 23rd being the tip off for the WNBA, go big or go home. Like we might as well have the WNBA president and an associate who was Jennifer was a former Olympian, right? Like, so we've got, like, I'm just excited about the caliber, and definitely those are the first few athletes, like in our first press release that went out just the other week. It was still in March. So of course we wanted to kind of mention some of the great women that we have joining us because it was International Women's Month. So in celebration of kind of the launch, we wanted to celebrate that. But yeah, we're excited. The WNBA having them come on board. Obviously, here I am in Toronto, like the Tempo are coming. So Canada's going to be heated up. But yeah, like we're, I think at this stage, we've got athletes from the NHL, MLB, NFL, PWHL, and as well, like Team USA, Team Canada, Team Germany, Team France, Team UK. Like it goes across the bar. Like very excited. Didn't expect this. Project Max has come on board. We've got, and it's just a matter of timing. Some might be coming in virtually because they're off with their families, because respectfully, it is Memorial Day weekend. But, to be able to have great conversations and know some names like Josh Powell to Nick Lowry, Eric Dickerson has been a huge supporter and fan of this since day one. He's the one that perpetrated the Allegiant introduction in the first place. Those are a couple good people. Like I'll take them. So
yeah, it's really cool. And I think what I really love about this whole thing is like it catches like wildfire, right? You came in with an authentic goal to say, hey, I want to help people move. I want to help people get outside. I want to help people be healthy is really what the whole goal of this is, right? And bring that to light to people. You came in with this organic mission that then has just continued to infiltrate to other people who said, I agree with this. I want to be part of this. Let me introduce to somebody else. And so it's like, it really is this saying yes, but also the answer is no if you don't ask. So if you didn't ask in the first place or didn't come out with the idea and didn't talk about it, your goal would have never happened and is blown up to this huge event that obviously you're doing a big event at Allegiant Stadium for corporate sponsors, and you'll have Jen and some of your athletes there. And what if I'm me and I want to, we have a group of people in town for Memorial Day weekend, and I would love for all of us to be able to participate. So is that purely, do I have to go to an app? How do I, and get as an individual, how do I get involved?
You got it. No, totally. That's a great question. So powerhour.world is the landing page and website. So you can go right on there and you can register to join. The donate button will be going live here in the next 10 days. We plan to do it starting, exactly 30 days out to kind of the event, or a month in advance. And then it will continue to be live for the full entire year, obviously. because we'll have all these micro actions. But yeah, you can go to powerhour.world right now. You can pre-sign up, and then you'll get details in your inbox of exactly, in this case, Amy, to your question, exactly what you and Scott and your family would be looking to do on that Saturday. And it will guide you through, like, how do you want to link and sync? It will give you, here's Strava, here's a free download for Strava if you don't have it. So just making it a real simple step-by-step process that takes maybe about 5 minutes. Obviously, that being said, if you have a fit wearable too, like Apple, it's just being able to sync that data, or Fitbit, where you're, able again to link. So as long as you have something that allows you to say, yes, I moved for 60 minutes, it shows that my heart rate was elevated, that counts towards the Guinness World Record. And as long as you're able to download that, which you'll do again through your registration portal back on the powerhour.world website. So you'll be able to go back in, you'll have had your profile login, and then you just have to be able to upload that data from Strava or Garmin or Whoop, or however you're measuring that physical movement.
It's amazing. I really feel, listening to you talk about this, that I know you said this is just this is the inaugural, but like, this has such legs, right? I feel like in 3 years from now, this is going to be something we're all getting alerted for on our Apple Watch. It's
I'm
just
really hopeful.
I mean, you think about Power Hour, which it happens, I think, around Earth Day, where everyone turns their lights. They're supposed to turn a light off for an hour
For an
around
hour,
the world.
exactly.
And so you think about how that works and how that is really taken over. This is just the beginning of this huge movement of getting people to move, but really making the global awareness of fitness, of health, of mental health. Like, I am so proud of you for this. It's
Thank
like, it's
you.
so incredible to like have shared this Uber with you. I remember sharing our Uber to our first women in sports events in New
I know.
Orleans, and be like, this woman is a total badass. Am I allowed to be sitting next to the car in her? Like, this is not something I should be permitted to do, because it's just so incredible what you're doing. I love that
Thanks.
this comes from such an authentic place in your heart, and that is just, it's amazing to see that happen. And it's such motivation, inspiration for all of us, that we can make a difference in our communities. We can make a
100%.
difference in the world. It may look different, right? We may not be able to run for office. We may not be able to, I don't know, solve world hunger, but you can do these smaller things in your community that really will impact and ultimately impact the global space.
The greater space, yeah. And that's exactly, I kind of, coming from a policy background, and I know, Amy, you know that, and living in Ottawa, which is kind of the Washington DC of Canada, right? That was the whole effect on the Power Hour for me, was how do I get into the hearts and homes and start to make sure that I'm planting a seed into that, like, that minute aspect, like coming from a single family home myself growing up. I look at the resources and what my mom gave to my brother and I just think, I want to be able to be a part of paving that forward, and I need to ask for everybody's help, right? And I think movement, whether it's for 60 minutes, I just feel everybody can do it. Even those that have, I call them people of determination. If somebody has a disability, get out with your wheelchair. Get out with somebody in your neighborhood. Push somebody who's in a wheelchair that might be a senior. Take somebody who might be an amputee or a veteran that would be, looking for a conversation and going for a stroll. I think there's these acts of kindness and humility that we can look through physical activity, and just what we can continue to give back. It's really easy. I think most people just turn a blind eye, and I'm hopeful, you're right, Jen, in like 3 to 5 years, can this be, yes, this year's a Guinness World Record. I don't think we're going to do a Guinness World Record every year, but damn right, like everybody that I talk to, the goal is that every single year our count is more than it was this year. So it's kind of, and I think it's starting to get hype. We just had a great conversation with actually the NFL Raiders that are, obviously owners of the Allegiant Stadium, and there could be some really exciting twists to the May 23rd, 24th event, and possibly even the date. So I will drop it on this podcast. It might switch, just to actually give some size and time because of the feedback we're getting. Obviously, everybody that's been pre-registering, they'll know if that change comes to heart, but it's a good movement just because I think we're getting more hype than I could ever have dreamed of, to be honest. Like, at this moment, it's kind of crazy cool.
That's like, what you just said gave me chills of just really the impact. And so I encourage all of you to go over to powerhour.world, register, spend that hour doing something good with a little bit of physical activity. We're not asking you to go out and run a marathon. If you can run a marathon in an hour, good for you. But,
Yeah.
I think
Fastest man in the world.
yeah, exactly. But go out
Seriously.
And move with your family, move with your children, move with your neighbors to showcase if you're teaching someone young, this is what we can do together. And so it's just really cool to see that and how really we are all so connected across the world. And so thank you, Angela, for sharing your story with us. I could talk to you for like hours. So it's just really cool to be able to have you here. And thank you
Thank you.
for calling in with us.
No, hey, Scott, Amy, so appreciated.
Thank you.